a lot of presidential and other campaigns. He's out in Houston, Texas. Jeff, welcome. I want to talk about the human aspects of this as well as the sort of the inside politics of it. Say you're the campaign manager for Donald Trump and an accusation comes up and he says, Jeff, this thing's just false. Are you comfortable without knowing whether it's true or false saying then to your spokespeople and surrogates, everybody go out and say it's false? Or would you want to figure out for yourself whether it was true or false?
I would probably pull them into a dark room and have a real serious conversation. But that's all you have to go by. And, you can only take their word. And after being in a campaign for a couple of years together, you really know if they're shading the truth or not. And but that's really all you have to go by. So I would have a very serious private conversation and then let them know that if this isn't exactly the truth, that we can't be caught. So let's defend what we can defend and not go any further than that.
I want to get you on the record on two things just as our conversation continues so the viewers know where you stand. First of all, are you supporting Mr. Trump for president?
I am.
Okay. I'm sure, familiar with at least some of the allegations and some of the accounts these women have given. Do you find them credible, not credible, or don't know?
I think they're credible enough that they need to be handled, pivoted, and get away from them. I mean, when you wake up in a presidential campaign, every day you get to decide what your message is. And you don't get to decide what the press will cover. You don't really get to decide what your opponent says, of course, but you do get to say what you're going to say that day. And for them to spend so much time, really, I mean, they needed to handle the Access Hollywood. I frankly think the debate gave them an opportunity to do so. He had not had a real public statement outside of the hostage video. He had not had a chance to really address that until the debate. So he got to tell, 80 million people all at once what his answer was, and that was fine. These allegations, you need to pivot and get back. We have 76% of the people in the country that want change. Hillary represents change. And for them to spend day after day after day, not really them as much as him, the principal, to continue to litigate this in front of millions of people as people are actually voting. I mean, he's a vessel for the party at this point, whether anyone likes it or not. For him to spend that much time litigating these criticisms and charges is not the right way to go. He needs to address it and then pivot and get to his message, which actually, frankly, is a winning message.
Jeff, what do you make about some of the vulgar sayings that we're seeing at some of the Trump campaigns? We're seeing women that are wearing T-shirts that say, Trump talk dirty to me, or Trump grab me here with an arrow pointed down to between their legs. But also, not just about this particular topic, but just, using various explicit phrases, in speech and talking to the press, yelling at the press, on T-shirts, on signs. What do you make of that whole idea of them really using this vulgar language?
It's rough to be sure. You don't control everybody at your rallies, but it's disappointing to see. But I think it's because the topics have gotten so disappointing to see, and because they believe. I mean, let's just put yourself in Mr. Trump's shoes here for a second, and his supporters' shoes. If this isn't true, imagine how angry you would be. If there's absolutely no shred of any truth to this, imagine the anger that you would have. So, I mean, to a certain point, they're getting whipped up, and it's for sure a little bit out of control. But he's got a motivation among some folks that have not been participants in the political process before. They've never been to a rally. Some of them have not even voted before, or infrequently vote at least. And so I think you're seeing a lot of passions that run very high. I mean, right now, in this moment, somewhere in this country, somebody's probably getting pushed or shoved or hit in a debate over who they're going to vote for in this campaign. I mean, I was just at an event not long ago where we were sitting around a bonfire, a wonderful scene. Two people had no idea about each other, both talking about the presidential in their own little groups. And the guy reached over to the lady and said, "You're a bigot for supporting Donald Trump." That inflamed tensions, and alcohol was involved. But people are whipped up, and that's the way presidential campaigns get. Now, I think we're seeing it on a new scale now.
Jeff, let's go back to how the campaign's handling it. Again, say you're Donald Trump's campaign manager. He says these allegations are false. We need to undermine their accounts. At this point in the campaign, what do you do? Do you have your opposition research department look in their backgrounds? You hire private detectives? What do you do to try to undermine their accounts, their credibility, if that's what Donald Trump seems to want to do?
Well, they have a secret weapon, and maybe a not-so-secret weapon, but they have Melania, his wife. They have Ivanka, his daughter. They have Tiffany, his daughter. In a way, they even have his sons. During the Republican convention, That was what I took away from that convention, and what actually Hillary, I think mistakenly so, when they said say one good thing about each other, when she talked about what a role model he was for his kids. Well, let's take that, use that. I don't think you can pivot. I think you have to pivot optically.
But I understand, and maybe they will come out, although so far I think most of the public comments they've made haven't been particularly helpful. I'm asking about this claim that Mike Pence made this morning, that Donald Trump made yesterday, that they're going to have information that undermines the accounts of some of the accusers. If Donald Trump wants that information, how do you get it at this point in the campaign? Private detectives, Google?
Oh, I mean, you can, but I don't think that's not what you would do. I mean, you would certainly spend a little bit of time doing that just to see if they're on the payroll or if they have a history of doing this. I mean, you'd want to know immediately. So to walk through the kind of technical process when that happens. Like, for instance, when it was discovered that Ted Cruz's father, participated in the JFK assassination, you spend a little time to see where he was at that period of time. You absolutely need to know all the facts as a campaign, not just through the principal's eyes. And then if there's something that's aggressively apparent that you can use to dispute this, then you use it. If they weren't in the same area, if he actually wasn't on a flight, let's just take the facts. But if there are no facts, if it's he said, she said, you get away from it and handle it optically. You address it, you make a statement or a press statement. It doesn't have to even be on camera, but you then get away from it. And that's why I think they're mishandling.
I just want to make sure we're not leaving a little bit of news here on the floor. Were you just saying that when the allegation was raised that Ted Cruz's father might have been involved in Kennedy's assassination, you looked into it to make sure it wasn't true?
Oh, sure. Well, you call Raphael and see if he knew Lee Harvey Oswald. I mean, you figure out what the truths are.
What did he say when you asked him?
Well, we can't discuss that on open air. No, so he said no. But you do spend, you have a team of people that are research folks in a presidential campaign, that they are the rapid response, and they're paying attention. They get it to the research department, and the research department spends some time doing it. The campaign manager's typically in a very aggressive tone trying to get the information. And when it's done, then you settle on a course of action, and you move. You don't let this define the candidacy.
Right.
Jeff, do you think it's a good idea for Hillary Clinton to be laying low and not having any events until the debate?
This prevent defense that she's conducted since, since the Khan event, I think it's a real mistake. I mean, you can't beat somebody for president in July and August, but the fact that Donald Trump is having more events per day and more rallies and media avails in a day than their entire ticket has in a day, I feel is mistaken. I mean, you want to have, at this point, everybody drops the pretenses of trying to reach across the aisle and do all the things that campaigns tend to do for a certain amount of time. I mean, we're a little over 3 weeks out. You now need to be motivating your base. You can actually increase the data that we have, and this is well documented, peer-reviewed academic research, shows you can get 2 points out of a visit. That's why we travel in a presidential campaign. You can get up to 4 points, depending on how the local press coverage goes and how directly you engage them. And so for her to be off the field, I think they have this idea that when your opponent's slitting his throat, don't take away the knife. I think that's their approach. I think it's a mistake. I mean, she needs energy. She needs excitement. She needs passion. And they just don't have it. And I don't understand. I mean, I'm happy for it, but I don't understand the prevent defense approach that they've put on for so many months. And I don't know if it's because they don't want to talk about WikiLeaks or they don't have anything to say. There could be those two things. But the way they're conducting the campaign is not a way to put a candidate away in a week that they just had. She should be everywhere this week pressing the case, not just using surrogates. And Mrs. Obama did a great job yesterday pressing the case, but it needs to be for the candidate. That's a rallying cry for her own voters.
Jeff Roe down in Houston. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have you back again soon. Appreciate it. The Republican Party's chances on the down ballot races in November when we come back right after this.